Breaking news, guys. Volodymyr Zelensky threatens NATO with nuclear weapons. Like, really? So it's come out in an article like a couple of minutes ago. I was just going to go to bed, but this news article flashed up and it was just so wild. I thought I had to look into it and understand what it means. So I'll just get straight into it, guys, because I want to keep this video short. Where are we? Where I've totally lost what I'm doing. Yeah, there we are. So in the article, it's talking about Vladimir Zelensky's victory plan, and he's either saying if we can't join NATO, then we'll try. We will seek to get nuclear weapons. So, as part of his victory plan, they're saying that they need some sort of deterrence from Russian aggression, and that they're saying if they can't join NATO, then they're gonna get their own nuclear weapons. Now, I understand what a lot of you guys are thinking, like, the Iranians have been trying this for years, the North Koreans have been trying this for years. Let's not forget that Ukraine used to be the world's third largest nuclear superpower after the fall of the Soviet Union, but then they gave up their nuclear weapons. They said, look, we don't want to be part of this. We don't want to have any enemies. We just want to be a peaceful nation. Didn't really turn out well for them. Kind of why you should never give up your military. Anyway, but Ukraine, as before before the invasion, certainly, they were the 7th largest producer of nuclear energy. So they have, quite a lot of nuclear expertise anyway. They understand how nuclear reactors work. They've got a lot of knowledge from, it's old knowledge, I agree, from back in the day. But this is kind of all fitting into place at the moment because in the United Kingdom, we're one of the biggest producers of the parts for nuclear weapons. So what do I think will happen? I've said I don't think they're going to be part of NATO. Well, let's go on the article and then we'll explore it. Volodymyr Zelensky has threatened to seek nuclear weapons unless Ukraine is given NATO membership. So, he's literally threatening NATO with nuclear weapons. The Ukrainian president told European Union leaders during a speech in Brussels that Kiev needed strong deterrence against Russia, which is fair. You can't, and again, it's okay people pointing the finger saying, oh, psychopath Zelensky is this. He's, for better or worse, he's trying to do the right thing for his country, for his people. Either Ukraine will have nuclear weapons which will serve as protection, or it must be part of some kind of, and it's really interesting, this word in here. And it's, what was I saying? I'll start again. Either Ukraine must have nuclear weapons which will serve as protection, or it must be part of some kind of alliance. Apart from NATO, we do not know of such an effective alliance. So I think everybody knows, guys, that NATO is over. I've been saying this for such a long time. It's not worth the paper it's written on. I've talked lots about how, the articles don't actually mean anything. So they're talking about a new alliance here. Could we have a new European alliance, a new Baltic alliance, a new alliance of Europe? Guys, we're going to have something new because when Donald Trump gets, I'll go on, sorry. This is so funny. Guys, this is actually wild. He added that Donald Trump agreed it was a fair argument for Ukraine to seek atomic weaponry when the two leaders spoke in the United States. Donald Trump's not a leader. He's a presidential candidate. It's wild, So, like, Zelensky goes over to, he goes over to the United States and, instead of meeting with Joe Biden or Kamala Harris and having these meetings and then quoting them, he's like, nah, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm just going to go to Big DT and we're going to thrash things out. It's absolutely wild that this is happening, that this article is quoting a presidential candidate that's not yet won. It's absolutely, this is the world we're living in. Ukraine inherited the world's third biggest nuclear arsenal, as we said, estimated at several thousand warheads when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. But in a gesture of goodwill, surrendered them 3 years later. So we'll leave it there, guys, and stop sharing. But from the article, you can kind of understand what's happening and you can see the reasoning why that's happening and why I guess, it has to happen. So what I think is going to happen, and guys, just let's just take a second and think about that. Zelensky, who was he meeting with? Like, was it, where was it meeting? Who was he talking to? I totally missed that. I can't remember. He was talking to somebody. Was it in Brussels? Where are we? Told the European Union. So Zelensky is talking to the European Union, and he doesn't quote, he doesn't quote what Joe Biden said, the sitting American president. He's like, nah, I'm not going to bother with you. He quotes what a former, it's wild. It's just absolutely insane. Anyway, so, he's come out and he's saying we want nuclear weapons. Now, what I think is going to happen, the United States will stop funding this. It's like almost 100% certainty that the United States are going to stop funding this conflict. You've seen a lot of echoes. You've seen a lot of words from the European Union because, Europeans, guess what? We're going to have to put our big boy pants on. And people are talking about Trump proofing and how we can raise finances for the war in Ukraine. Nobody is guys, tell me how, rather than talk about how to raise finances for the war in Ukraine, tell me what countries trying to raise peace talks. Tell me what countries are trying to raise peace negotiations. That's how you know this war's not going anywhere. And you might get the odd politician flim-flammer. Guys, neither side can back down. Each side know what's on the stakes here, guys. And there's a lot more at stake here than Ukraine. And I think the Ukrainians know that. So does Russia. So does anybody with any, political clout. They all know what's at stake. So what I think will happen is once Donald Trump pulls funding, what's going to happen then is the rest of Europe are going to have to put their big boy pants on. They're going to start funding. I think Britain is going to be the strategic partner here. I'd like to say France as well. It's going to be either Britain or France. Guys, let's just talk. Let's just look at this. Look at the situations. Look at the bromance between Zelensky and Macron. It's not going to be difficult just with Zelensky and Macron. It's not going to be difficult for the Ukrainians to obtain nuclear weapons. Not at all. They've got the capacity already. Like we said, they're the world's 7th largest nuclear energy producer. They're allied with the United Kingdom, who's a huge producer of parts for nuclear weapons. They're already looking at having the long-range ballistic missiles. These F-16s, guys, they can be fitted with nuclear weapons, with the launch capacity for nuclear weapons, for NATO launch capacity for nuclear weapons. So all this stuff now, it's starting to fall in place. All this stuff that all these wild things that we're talking about, there's more flesh on the bones, more things are coming out of the woodwork. And we're kind of seeing the bigger picture now. As we get closer to the US election, as we get closer to D-Day, to H hour, whatever you want to call it, we're starting to see more of this picture. And that's kind of what it looks like now. It looks like that it's an inevitability that, the United States are going to pull funding. Zelensky's not going to get NATO membership. And it's, remember the wording that he used, or an alliance, and we don't know any others but NATO. So he's kind of in that language. Maybe that's just to me, maybe I am a little bit biased with that, thinking about that. But I think he's saying, and he understands that NATO hasn't got any teeth, and they're looking at potentially another alliance. What I think will happen is I think they'll get nuclear weapons and form an alliance, but I don't think the alliance will be NATO. I think it's going to be some sort of European Baltic nations and Britain, basically the ones who are going to be fighting Russia. They're going to fight, bond an alliance and fight the Russians. Guys, these conflicts are going nowhere. Can you imagine this now from the Russian side? Zelensky's, obtaining nuclear weapons. Zelensky, who's already attacked our country. Zelensky, who is already firing into our country. The Ukrainians are building more and more strength to come and attack us. Think about this from the Russian side. Think about the rhetoric from the Russian side. Guys, these escalations are just ridiculous, and they're going to get further and faster, quicker and harder, stronger and more bold. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I said it was going to be a short video. It kind of is. But I'm going to max to grid it. I'll get you guys another video later.